I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Special Counsel Jack Smith is not only schooling defense counsel, but also Judge Aileen Cannon in a new court filing that was just recently made. And Jack Smith filed a reply to what was styled as an opposition to the government's request for a Garcia hearing. A Garcia hearing is where there are potential conflicts of interest, and in the Southern District of Florida criminal case against Donald Trump for the theft of thousands of government records, including top secret records, classified records, and other national defense information, Donald Trump's political action organization is creating lots of conflicts of interest, because not only is Donald Trump paying for his own lawyer through his political action organizations, but his political action organizations are paying for the lawyers of his co-defendants, Waltin Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira. De Oliveira is a maintenance worker. Nauta is a valet and assistant to Donald Trump. And also Donald Trump's political organization has been paying many of the witnesses, and many of these witnesses may have testimony. And based on this filing by Special Counsel Jack Smith and other filings that he made, these witnesses do indeed have testimony that would be inculpatory, would tend to prove the guilt of some of the co-defendants and Donald Trump. And so Special Counsel Jack Smith is saying, under the law, under Supreme Court and 11th Circuit Court of Appeal precedent, Judge Aileen Cannon, this thing called a Garcia hearing, based on a case called Garcia, where this precedent has been established. This is not me asking, Judge Cannon. This is me telling you what the law is. And here, if you don't agree to hold an appropriate Garcia hearing, you are going to get overturned by the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. What needs to happen, Judge Aileen Cannon, is that in an open court setting, that's what a Garcia hearing is about, it becomes an adversarial proceeding where the government can ask questions as well of the witnesses who may have issues because their lawyers may be conflicted, because you don't just want to accept the representations where a witness or a co-defendant may feel intimidated by their lawyer. And then we have this open adversarial, almost mini trial about whether there is competent counsel representing a co-defendant or witness, or whether they're just doing Donald Trump's bidding, or doing the bidding based on a conflict if this was another court setting. Now, what the lawyers who are being paid for by Donald Trump, who are representing the co-defendants, Nauta, and in this case, because this motion relates to Carlos de Oliveira, what they're saying is, Judge Cannon, can we please just do this ex parte, meaning let's not do it with the government here. You should do it on your own. Maybe we can be in the room, just Trump paid for lawyers and Judge Cannon, and then you can conduct your inquiry with our clients there if they feel they're being represented effectively, just us, no Jack Smith. And Special Counsel Jack Smith's like, look, is there potential that there may be some questions that could infringe on a valid attorney-client privilege claim? Sure. So maybe there's certain things, very minimal, that can be done on a quote-unquote ex parte basis. But no, this is a public adversarial hearing, and I want to be there. My team's going to be there and ask questions of these witnesses about whether they understand the conflict of interest, whether they engage in a knowing waiver of the conflict of interest, meaning they are aware that this conflict could seriously harm them, and probably already has seriously harmed them by dragging them into the case, because where clients have fired the Trump paid for lawyers, like someone named Yusol Taveras, a IT worker, who used to work at Mar-a-Lago, they were in charge because they ultimately told the truth when they had independent counsel. Also, Special Counsel Jack Smith says, Judge Cannon, what you should also know is that even if the client claims that they are waiving, if there is an actual conflict of interest where their lawyer is conflicted because the lawyer is going to have to cross-examine other clients that the lawyer represented, there's potential here for an unwaivable conflict of interest. And you shouldn't blame me, Jack Smith, for bringing this to your attention. This was the scheme by Donald Trump's lawyers to have this arrangement where they thought they were so smart that they were going to have the political action organization try to represent everybody to protect Donald Trump. But instead, all they've done is made lots of other people co-defendants instead of cooperating witnesses in their underlying crimes that they committed in the first place. And so here's some of the most powerful lines where Jack Smith is truly just schooling Judge Cannon in what her obligations are as a judge. As per usual, the economy was also a huge topic for the day, and why wouldn't it be? It's changing faster than ever and demanding we all adapt to keep up. In fact, a stunning survey revealed that over half of Americans making six figures now live paycheck to paycheck. Now, even though Goldman Sachs is saying the classic investments are headed nowhere for the rest of the year, other markets are rising to fill that gap, creating incredible opportunity among the chaos, because even if conventional markets flatline this year, other assets don't have to do the same. That's why I'm excited to introduce our next partner, Masterworks. I actually spent a lot of time digging into this, and according to a recent report by Citibank, the asset with the lowest correlation to the stock market of any major asset class was art. It turns out contemporary art prices have outpaced the S&P 500's return for the last 26 years by 131%. Now, this market used to be hard to get into, but Masterworks is the platform that lets you invest in multi-million-dollar paintings without breaking the bank. Masterworks has built an impressive track record of 15 exits, all of them profitable. These numbers speak for themselves. Now, with those kind of results, Masterworks offerings have actually sold out in minutes before, so there is a wait list. Now, although I have invested, and as with any investment, past performance is not indicative of future returns, and exited investments are not representative of performance for artworks not yet sold. But I reached out to them to give you all VIP access to their latest offerings to skip the wait list. Head over to masterworks.art/MeidasTouch to skip that wait list, or just click the link in the description of the episode below. That's masterworks.art/MeidasTouch, masterworks.art/MeidasTouch, or just click the link in the description of this episode below. That's masterworks.art/MeidasTouch. So here's some of the most powerful lines where Jack Smith is truly just schooling Judge Cannon in what her obligations are as a judge. It says, to the extent Donald Trump's co-defendant, Carlos de Oliveira, suggests that the existence of a potential conflict of interest, rather than an actual conflict of interest, has a bearing on the need for a Garcia hearing or the scope of the hearing, he is mistaken. The possibility of either a potential or actual conflict of interest triggers a judicial obligation. Saying Judge Cannon, it triggers a judicial obligation to inquire into the possible conflict and decide whether to accept any waiver. As the Supreme Court has explained, a district court must pass on the issue whether or not to allow a waiver of conflict of interest by a criminal defendant, not with the wisdom of hindsight after the trial has taken place, but in the murkier pretrial context when relationships between the parties are seen through a glass darkly. As a result, district courts must be allowed substantial latitude in refusing waivers of conflicts of interest, not only in those rare cases where an actual conflict may be demonstrated before a trial, but in the more common cases where a potential conflict of interest, which may or not burgeon into an actual conflict as the trial progresses. Regardless of whether Carlos de Oliveira's lawyer, John Irving's prior representation of 3 potential witnesses against de Oliveira presents a potential conflict rather than an actual conflict, the potential conflict triggers this obligation and the need to investigate. And then Jack Smith goes on to say the court should not conduct a hearing ex parte. And then Jack Smith explains, Although John Irving, who's Carlos de Oliveira's lawyer, welcomes any inquiry of Mr. de Oliveira by the court, he contends, as Mr. Woodward does, Woodward represents Waltine Nauta, that the court's inquiry should be conducted entirely ex parte. That, again, they should just be there without the government, and it should just be done by Judge Cannon alone. Neither Mr. Irving nor Mr. Woodward provides any basis to deviate from the normal Garcia hearing procedures. 11th Circuit, and then Jack Smith puts this in quotes, precedent requires a full-scale adversarial hearing to evaluate a potential conflict. And then it goes on to talk about the cases, saying that this isn't a recommendation to you, Judge Aileen Cannon. 11th Circuit precedent requires a full adversarial hearing. In other words, I'm about to take an appeal if you get this wrong, and I think you are going to get it wrong. But in any event, let me make my record. Let me school you right now, Judge Cannon. And one of the interesting parts about this, and we talked about it in one of the other videos that we did, is that these three other witnesses who were represented by the Trump paid-for lawyer, John Irving, they've since left John Irving, and they are now being represented purportedly by independent counsel. That's a major breakthrough that's not being reported by many other media outlets, but you see it right there in this filing. That means that they could likely become cooperating witnesses against Donald Trump, against Waltine Nauta, and against Carlos de Oliveira. We'll keep you updated with more information as we get it here, but clearly Jack Smith just completely schooling Judge Cannon. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subscribers, and check us out at MeidasTouch.com.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.